Dan and Dave. No, not these ones.
Dave and Dan. Or is that Dave and this is Dan?
Hi, my name is Dan.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Dan and Dave Buck, the pioneers of cardistry. Two people who opened our horizons and helped us discover card flourishes and modern card tricks, and essentially inspired us to launch our own project.
Growing up in a really small town, it's like 50,000 people in Sonora, California, there's really nothing else to do but practice card tricks.
Ricky showed us some slides from Aaron Fisher and Lee Asher. He let us borrow their first VHS tapes, and that hooked us on card magic.
When we started practicing cardistry, it wasn't a thing. It has its roots in magic. It comes from card magicians who would use what is called a card flourish.
And it was something a magician would do to accent or punctuate a trick.
We had no idea we were going to help spawn an entire genre or community or art form.
After Cardistry-Con in Hong Kong, we sat down with the twins and asked them a few questions that hopefully they've never answered before.
It is, for me personally, it is the second Cardistry-Con. The first one was in Los Angeles, so now I can kind of compare. And I want to say that you did an outstanding job by conducting a Cardistry-Con here outside of your comfort zone, and I want to commend your amazing efforts in doing so. And what's your takeaway from this year's event?
I really enjoyed how this year we had more freedom to interact with one another. The schedule wasn't so heavy. There was more sessioning, more time in between events. It was smaller. We do intend to grow the conference, but I think there is something special about keeping it small in a small space. We couldn't get away. There's not a lot around this area, so we kind of had to stay together in one building on one floor, and I think that really added to the experience of the community.
Yeah, also having everyone at the same hotel was nice. It's sort of like after hours of the Cardistry-Con, where it continues to go on till 6 a.m. in the morning, which is really special for these guys. But yeah, I also like the smaller conferences. Berlin was about this size, maybe a little smaller, more intimate. You get to see more of the event, meet more of the people. Where in LA, where it was 350 plus people, afterwards you watch the video and couldn't really remember what happened just because it was so big. There's so many people.
And personally for you, which one is your favorite so far? That's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and I don't necessarily have a favorite. I think they're all unique experiences. I do think as we do more, we're improving. We're improving the logistics. We're improving what we feature in the schedule, just how we manage things. It's getting easier, it seems like.
Dan?
No, I was just going to say it's becoming sort of like a film festival because there's so many videos. But maybe there'll be more of that integrated into later conferences. But
yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd love to have like a proper theater room to screen all of these movies.
Speaking about
short films,
short films, movies, I know you guys wanted to become cinematographers, like film directors.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
years ago.
So now that you completely changed, you didn't enter the school you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So can you briefly cover that and then maybe kind of say if you regret that you didn't become film directors right now?
No regrets. I'm glad I didn't go down that road. I think now I would have probably been very different, but I think in the long run I would have ended up in the same spot. It would have just taken longer to get there because I would have been sidetracked doing something I ultimately didn't really want to do.
What's for you, Dave?
More or less the same. Yeah, no regrets. Never. It's never too late.
There are so many interviews with you, right?
Octopus.
Yeah.
We're advertising our new book coming out.
And you explained how did you start at cardistry, and everyone who is watching this video can check them out. And I wanted to ask you about different things. There was a stream called XEM, then was stream called Cardistry, and you like, I'm not exaggerating, you created this stream Cardistry, you made it different. So the question is, how did you manage to do that? What was the secret?
I don't like to take credit. I don't think we created it. I think there was a group of us that stuck with it, but I would say we helped promote it. We promoted the hell out of it because we were super passionate about it. And at that time we were going to a lot of magic conferences, and it was at those conferences where we would showcase cardistry in a way, and sort of, you know, we were ambassadors of the art form, and that's what grew it.
Timing. I mean, we got in at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like during your career, obviously you attracted a lot of contracts with companies. I was wondering if you had like your idols, heroes, celebrities, maybe someone you were aspiring to, noticing you due to your skill, if it happened. Can you name some examples?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to become friends with Blaine very early on because of our unique skills. It appealed to him. He was really into it, approached us, and we still keep in touch. We also became friends with Chris Kenner, who opened a lot of doors and introduced us to a lot of people and gave us some street cred.
Hey, we're shooting this video, and there are these two young kids. They're twins, and they've taken Sybil, and they've gone crazy. It's insane. So I said, oh, cool, I'd love to see it. I saw them 10 seconds, and I'm like, okay, this is different. It was really the first time that I truly saw cardistry, like they call it now.
If you put in the time, I think it will open doors, and it has, so, yeah.
That's cool, Dan. Same for you. I guess I don't have to ask you, right?
Yeah, we're twins. We think we have the same
We do the
thoughts.
same thing, so.
But, you know, the magic and cardistry community are, no matter how big they are, they're very small. And if you want to, you can meet your idols and become friends with them, and that's what's so cool about it.
You mentioned David Blaine, and your first custom deck of playing cards, Smoke and Mirrors, was arguably the first custom deck of playing cards after the Illusionist decks, like the few of the bicycle like colored, and after David Blaine's deck as well.
I was going to say the David Blaine.
So I was wondering...
And that's what inspired us, yeah.
Can you just briefly cover that?
I remember that story. It was like good marketing on his part, because it was a David Blaine deck that just showed up on eBay one day, and the story was that he did magic and gave the deck away to some stranger, and they put it up on eBay, and that's sort of how it was released, and there was all this hype around it, like, oh, when's it coming out? Or when's it going to be for sale? And we were living in Vegas at the time, and that's sort of what gave us the idea, like, well, why don't we do our own deck, you know? We were working on the trilogy, so right after that we started working on our Smoke and Mirrors.
So, like, you know, you see how the decks right now are being sold out. The runs are 2,500 decks, 5,000 decks, right? When you release your Smoke and Mirrors decks, I remember on Series 11 it was sold out in a week or so, and I was wondering, can we compare the runs of your decks and the hype, like what's going on right now with the brands, like, and what was going on with you back then?
It's very different now. I mean, there was no brands back then. There was no hype.
But there was your brand.
There was our brand, but when we first released Smoke and Mirrors, like, in our opinion, it failed. It took months to sell out, and we didn't print very many. But we stuck with it and kept printing them and kept promoting them, and eventually it built up into sort of a brand of its own. And, you know, for 10 years, you know, we sold hundreds of thousands of those things. That's a lot of decks.
Right now, the community is like almost everyone can produce a deck of cards, like limited edition cards. And you predicted this trend a long time ago, right, by creating the DeckStarter.
Oh, right,
So,
yeah.
The question is, why did it flop for you?
I think it flopped because it wasn't our passion.
Yeah.
Also, Kickstarter already does that. We were basically knocking off a system that already worked, and we weren't adding anything to it. We weren't adding much to it. So ultimately, I think it didn't work because we didn't try hard enough. At that point, we had already launched Art of Play, and that was something we were really excited about. So it was really easy for us to say sayonara to DeckStarter we just closed it, and that was it.
Now you have separate brands. Now you have Art of Play separately, Art of Magic separately, and then Dave has a website representing you separately. Yeah. It makes sense in a way because there's so many content out there, and it becomes like too cluttered, and it's not easy to comprehend for a customer. Yeah. And does it work for a customer better this way, and why?
Ultimately, I don't know, but I think our goal is to focus on playing cards, puzzles, and games, and that's why we've been separating them these past few years.
Yeah, it's almost like it's taken us 20 years, so to speak, to figure it out, and we finally have, and it's what we're in love with right now, and what we're running with.
So you added puzzles, amusements, games to your store in like a span of the last 2 or 3 years?
It's been 5 years actually since we launched Art of Play, and the first couple of years were just playing cards, and then we started adding the puzzles.
I mean, every business out there needs some kind of like this moment of disruption, and because if it doesn't evolve, it will eventually perish. And I was wondering if puzzles, these games, amusements for your store played that key role that made your business evolve, and maybe if that was a thing, maybe did your customers who found your store due to all these new puzzles, maybe they found out about cardistry in the second place?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the goals, like to expand into a mainstream market with puzzles and games, which leads them back to Art of Play and us being so associated with cardistry. Having playing cards being one of our main products, you know, they're going to find out about it whether they want to or not, which is great for the art form because it's going to continue to get mainstream exposure.
Have you ever had, like maybe during the start of your career, when you just launched your shop, have you ever had this moment when some kind of rich kid or like big company placed an order which was worth a fortune? And how did you celebrate that moment?
I mean, maybe when we were young and that happened, it was exciting.
I'm completely oblivious to the orders.
Yeah, we focus on product development and management and marketing and all that stuff. I don't look at the numbers day to day because at the end of the day, that's not important to me. I mean, yeah, it helps, you know, run the business, but for me, I love creating product. I mean, that's why we release a deck every week, basically.
You transitioned from Dan and Dave, like a personality, to a brand, Art of Play. In business, in entrepreneurship, is brand better than a personality?
I think it goes both ways. I mean, look at Fontaine and anyone worldwide. I mean, anyone they're fucking badass, you know? And Fontaine is like, he's just so cool, you know, so that's why his decks sell, you know? You want to be a part of their world, and that's why they do so well.
I think at first you need personality. Like Fontaine wouldn't be Fontaine without Zach. Eventually it'll grow so big where Zach can take a step behind the scenes and it'll live beyond him if that's what he wants. But initially you can't just launch a brand and expect people to care about it. It has to come from personality and values and something people can connect with. And that's not a logo, it's the history behind it. So, yeah.
Okay, I would like to switch to your creations, your cards, your flourishes. It's so often people say it's almost a cliche that you are you're taking inspiration from different pieces of art, from music, from from paintings, in order to create your own stuff. I mean, I'm not sure. What about you? How did you come up with your material? Did something outside of cardistry world inspired you to create your iconic flourishes?
It's probably all the coffee we drank, and I don't know.
I don't know. Early on, when we were creating, for me at least, music had a huge influence on my creations. I would just listen to music with headphones for hours and hours and just jam. You know, I would, and then I would do something on accident, and then, oh, that's awesome, and try to recreate it. I would say 99% of my original moves are from just fiddling.
Can you guys maybe recall how you came up with your iconic flourishes, like Dan for you Jackson 5, or Dan for you Jackson 5, and Dave for you, sorry, I messed up, Dave, for you the Jackson 5, and then for you the Pandora. So
yeah, I mean they're both many flourishes strung together, years in development. Like there's probably 5 different flourishes in Pandora. It started from something I think that's called like TCT. I don't know.
The cut that Chris sucks at,
Yeah,
basically.
from the Dan and Dave system.
Yeah, from system.
It started with that, and then it just evolved over the years.
Yeah, and Jackson 5 is the same thing. It's just a combo of several different flourishes. Genesis is the first flourish or cardistry move I ever created, and that's how it ends. The Leno cut was a cut on its own, and then Madonna and Symbolism and Skater cut, which is not mine, but it's in there. So it's just a combo sequence of a bunch of different moves that evolved over a couple of years.
So Rumour has it then that you have come up with a variation on Jackson 5 that has like a Vertigo Hacky Sack in there. And this is something that Kevin actually, shout out to Kevin, he said this on one of his live streams.
He's full of shit.
So there's nothing like that.
Maybe.
Right. So many kids wanted to learn both and Jackson 5 and Pandora. Between you two, was there any kind of competition, like inside competition, who would create more material?
It was competition in a good way. You know, we would bounce ideas back and forth off each other and try to outdo each other, and that's ultimately what led us to creating so many moves early on. You know, it was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm going to try to one-up that. You know, here's this.
Same for you, Dave?
Probably. I don't remember it being very competitive, more collaborative, but there was probably some competition involved.
And speaking about your flourishes, Dan, when the prequel variations will come out?
Who knows? Maybe someday.
I wanted to now to go to a section like blitz questions, like short question, short answer.
Like rapid fire question?
Yeah, the fire question. Okay. So Manfred shuffle or Truffle shuffle?
Truffle.
I don't do either.
Oh, actually, I would go with the Hank Miller shuffle, which is the original version that inspired the Manfred shuffle.
Right.
Yeah. I think the Manfred shuffle was published because it was clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is most of our moves.
Yeah.
They're clever, but not necessarily good.
Illusionist or Theory 11?
I don't want to. I mean, they're both good in their own way.
Vanishing Inc.
All right. Interesting. Antlers or Smoke and Mirrors?
Antlers.
Why do I have to choose? Can I choose drifters?
Okay. That counts an answer as well. Now, best magician of all time.
What'd you say?
Best magician.
Oh, I thought you said masked magician.
I don't know. I think it changes. My favorite.
Derek Delgadio.
My favorite. Yeah, I would say Derek is at the top of the list. Delgadio.
Best cardist?
Brian Tudor.
Noel. Or Avi. It's a tie.
Is there anything in the future for the Cardistry-Con or for the Buck Twins that you're really excited right now?
I'm excited to grow Cardistry-Con. I think next year when we have it in Portland, there'll be a lot more people. The past couple of years, it's sold out in under a minute, and that's awesome. I think it's also unfortunate that so many people don't have the opportunity to come. So we'd love to increase attendance with a bigger space, more production value, bigger sponsors, and just put on a bigger and better event.